and the DJs and the host community, and I really want to thank a lot for as you can imagine, this is a really hard speech, as I would say. It's huge, right? So this morning I was thinking about what to say and branding thinking about how Sylvia and Projec and other people from STAR are really with us and are really the face of our work. So I went back and read some of their words and looked at pictures of them. And I was thinking about some themes that were really central to their ideas that I think are really meaningful to reflect on SRLP's 10th anniversary. So one of those themes for those women was survival. A lot of what they talked about was sharing stories of dealing with the police, jail, homelessness, and the dangers of street sex work. So much of what they talked about was about those realities and about surviving them. They also talked a lot about rejection. They talked about their roles as mothers of the queer rebellion, as frontliners, as often the people who are most visible and most vulnerable, but their experiences of being rejected by the emerging gay and lesbian leadership who sought to portray gay people as normal and saw trans people as a liability to the quest for inclusion in the status quo. And they shared those experiences of being iced out of meetings and dances, of being written out of legislation, of being kicked off stage, and of being excluded from the LGBT Center. And they did a lot of critiquing resource allocation in our movements, right? They were talking about how frustrated they were and how wealthy gay and lesbian people were devoting resources to meeting their needs and building fancy institutions celebrating their narrow politics while queer trans youth slept on the street. And the last theme I really got from looking at their words was about the fight and the struggle of trans people. Specifically, this really strong message asking for support, saying, people need to show up for our shit. There's parts of Rivera talking about the low turnout, the Amanda Lawn vigil, which many of you were at that day with me, and saying people need to show up for us. But the other side of her message was like, whether or not you show up, we're fucking gonna win. Right? Which I think is amazing. Marcia and Sylvia were describing building power and resistance rooted in trans and gender-conforming communities among people surviving together. They were building a range of projects like the Star House, which provides people a place to live, to meet those needs. And they were also dreaming of things like a bail fund and legal help for criminalized trans women. You can see that in their writings and their words. They were articulating the connection between radical action and absolute refusal to compromise with the anyone behind, and daily help with survival through a model of mutual aid. Sylvia died the year that SRLP started. She was only 51 years old. Like so many, she and Projec Johnson lived lives that were shortened by racism, poverty, and transphobia. SRLP has sought to continue the work that they practiced in dreams, to rigorously and joyfully fight for our survival together, to be a loud voice refusing the idea that pragmatic gay and lesbian politics needs to leave vulnerable people behind, and to build ways of fighting transphobia from the bottom up, putting racial and economic justice at the center, knowing that our liberation will never be delivered by courts or legislatures, but by our relentless struggle, our solidarity with one another, our care and love for one another, and our fearless, radical imagination of what the world can and should be. And I will live that right now. This is a weird one in this thing. Too short. I think that Sylvia and Marcia and the other women from STAR would be really proud of what we do. I think they would love that trans people inside prisons all over the United States get letters of information, friendship, support, and advocacy through SRLP that can help them survive while they're public benefits termination, eviction, and abusive foster care systems finally have somewhere to go. And I think they love what a complete pain in the ass we have been to certain white gay politics and organizations, exposing that another politics is possible, that trans people can make decisions about our own lives and our community's needs, and that organizations can get so much done without being sponsored by airlines or credit card companies. When I think about Sylvia and her death 10 years ago, I think about what's changed in those 10 years. Shortly after her death, the number of people in U.S. prisons rose over the 2 million mark. In the last 10 years, immigration in prison in the U.S. has quadrupled, and we've seen the Obama administration break all previous records by deporting more than 400,000 people a year, which is 33,000 people a month, which is intense to think about that. It's hard to imagine that in 2002, the war in Afghanistan had only recently started, and the war in Iraq was yet to come. Those wars have now killed more than 150,000 civilians, more than 6,000 American soldiers during the war, and 4,000 when they get home, and more than 2,300 civilian contractors. It costs over $3.7 trillion, which is completely unimaginable amount of money to me, which is particularly meaningful as the U.S. faces severe austerity measures that are about to cut our already shredded social service programs, leaving poor people, people with disabilities, youth, and people of color even more vulnerable. When I look at that whole picture,